Hello, thanks for tuning in. I'm Jeff Adelman, and I'm the host of Questions for Lawyers. This has been a very troubling couple of weeks. It's been a very troubling couple of months for other reasons, but the past 2 weeks in particular have been of major concern because we're dealing with the same issues that we've seen for hundreds of years in America. And I struggle to find ways to try to be a good ally in the Black community. I believe in civil rights, equality. And I thought, in order to do that, why not take this platform and let's just have a discussion. Let's talk. Let's talk about what we can do to be better Americans, to treat each other better, and to understand each other and what we're all going through. And from my time on the board of the Palm Beach County Justice Association, I met Byrnes Guillaume. Byrnes is a personal injury lawyer just like me. And we both went to Florida State. We didn't know each other then, but we've become friends over the past few years, cutting it up in the meetings and just spending time with each other and our families at different events. And I know that he feels very passionate about this, has his own stories that he's gone through in America, but he believes in the American justice system. He's a lawyer and he wants to make things better. So today, I want to welcome to the program Byrnes Guillaume. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this with me, friend.
Absolutely, Jeff. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Now, Byrnes, you really have a great story. And, can you tell the people who are watching, listening, about how you came to America?
Well, I was born in Haiti, and my family moved me when I was 5 years old. We moved to Miami, Florida, and I lived there. Went to school, elementary. I had Morningside Elementary, middle school. Then we moved to North Miami Beach, and I went to JFK Middle School, and then high school, North Miami Beach. I'm a Charger, NMB Charger. So that's my story. Obviously, it's the American dream. My family wanted to do better, provide for their family, and give us the opportunity to one day, I guess their son would be an attorney. And so the American dream that you hear of, that's how I came to be. So.
And what I really am impressed with, Byrnes, is when you opened your practice, you saw there was a need in the legal community and you're serving that need. Can you tell us a little about that?
Well, I started my career, I then went to Florida State undergrad. Then after that, went to Howard, received an MBA. And then after Howard, I went to law school in Springfield, Massachusetts, Western New England College, where I received my JD, and then took the Florida bar because it was too cold in Massachusetts, so I didn't want to stay in Massachusetts. So I decided to come back to Florida because I'm a Florida boy, and then took the Florida bar, passed. My first job was a prosecutor in Broward, did that for a year and a half. And then I decided that I wanted to open up my own firm, but specifically targeting the Haitian community. At a young age, during the 80s, I grew up in the 80s, and it was hard to be Haitian in America. It was hard because during that time, we were at the very bottom of the totem pole. We took jobs that people didn't want, but more specifically, we were just not treated fairly. We were treated where at one point they were saying the Haitian in Miami brought AIDS. They were saying that just horrible stuff toward the Haitian community. And I decided that they needed a champion. They needed someone to defend them. And at a young age, I knew that I wanted to to do something to uplift the Haitian community. So that's one of the reasons another thing that happened, I became propelled me to want to be a lawyer, but I knew that I wanted to really help the Haitian community. So that was my story. I opened my law firm about 11 years ago, specifically targeting Haitian community, dealing a lot with their personal injury, with their family issues, family law, and also with criminal defense issue that they have. So that's my story. What's going on? What about you? How did you start?
Well, mine's a lot easier to tell. I, grew up at Coral Springs. Mostly, I'm originally from Chicago, and went to Coral Springs High School, the Colts, in Florida State, Nova, and then I'm a lawyer's son. And my parents were actually the first in their family to go to college. So I'm the second generation doing that, and second generation lawyer. But I took over my father's practice, Larry Adelman, and he was doing personal injury, and I enjoyed seeing how passionate he was about helping people. I felt that I could do that. Originally, I was going to be a sports broadcaster, though, believe it or not. I don't know if you remember at Florida State, but the Tallahassee Tiger Sharks.
Oh, yeah.
Hockey team there. I worked for them. I did some of their post-game interviews. I interned. I was a much less serious person than I am now. I think that it's important to go through life and recognize that you can change. And who you are when you're 18, who you are when you're 25, who you are when you're 30 can be very different. Me personally, I think as I've gotten older, I think having children definitely helps. I think you become a little more empathetic to other people's problems, to their plight. And I've become more and more interested in certain injustices that I see that, it may not affect how I am treated, but it's not right. And it bothers me. And when I talk to my African-American friends and they tell me the stories that they've encountered from situations that never should have become traumatic, it just makes me question a lot of the things that I've thought growing up, a lot of the things that we've been taught. Never occurred to me that when we're talking about Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings, at the time they'd say it was his mistress. She was a slave.
Yeah.
And as painful as it is, you can't have a slave consent. That's rape. So those are the type of things that, we don't talk about honestly in America. And I think that now things are coming to a head because we have tried to kind of sweep all the things we don't want to talk about under the proverbial rug, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
But I mean, again, I deal with a wide variety of people, all shapes, colors, and sizes. I think that helps you become a little more empathetic, try to be a little more understanding. I mean, again, in this job, Byrnes, that you have to understand where people are coming from to deal with their reactions to things too, and how to bring them news and everything else. Sometimes certain people can make a decision like that. Other times they need time, and they have to trust you. So, I mean, there's a lot of psychology in this job. So I'm always trying to get better, trying to understand people better.
Absolutely. Let me ask you a question. While attending Florida State, did you have any issues in terms of where you saw social injustice or something where you experienced?
Well, you and I had, talked about this before, but what I had not remembered, and I should have remembered, is one of my roommates actually had a Confederate flag in his room. It wasn't my roommate, it was like a suite mate. And I thought it was strange, really weird, because being down here in Southeast Florida, you don't see that, or at least you didn't see that so much. And I guess as I got a little bit older, I realized how harmful that is. I never thought about it when I watched the Dukes of Hazzard and I saw it on top of the General Lee. I mean, one of my favorite, I didn't even know what General Lee was at that time. But these are the type of messages that were put forth to all of us, and we're desensitized to it. And I can't imagine if I was a person of color seeing that, like, you have got to be kidding me. This is the #1 show on television. Like, I don't know if you watch that show or not, but looking back at it, I mean, it's kind of embarrassing to have that. And it just never should have been. I had my own, not necessarily at Florida State, but in Gainesville, I had an issue. I lived in Gainesville for a little bit with prejudice, some anti-Semitism. I am Jewish. And I left a job. It was very painful. I'm not a religious person by any stretch, but it was something that really affected me, and it certainly influenced my wanting to go to law school and be an attorney, to go through that painful experience. It's not nearly, I mean, again, everybody has their own experience, but it really, it's pretty awful to be judged by something that has nothing to do with your merit. I mean, religion's not the same as skin color, but a lot of times you're born into the religion you are. And for somebody to prejudge you like that and not look at anybody else, it's pretty sobering.
Wow.
You know, pretty sobering. So, but that definitely pushed me on my journey, and to a certain extent, got me where I should be, which is representing people against injustice. What about yourself? We talked about, Florida State. I know you had an incident or two in Tallahassee.
Well, a couple of things. In high school, because growing up in the Haitian community, you tend to be in the Haitian, spend time with people that are like you, like-minded. So I was a little sheltered. But one thing I do remember is the expectation in my teachers. They expected, in my view, my family expected me to go to college, but I don't think the expectation for some of my teachers were to, when they saw me in I was in honors classes and so on, the expectation wasn't that this person will go to college or this person will go to Florida State. I think the biggest thing I think I face is the level of expectation versus someone that's white and someone that's black. I think for some extent, when you're white, you expect to college, and when you don't go to college, it's like, what are you doing? I don't think that's the expectation that was given to me growing up. And I told you a little bit about my experience at Florida State. So I'm here coming from Miami, going into my dorm room, and the first thing I'm greeted with is a Confederate flag. And I was completely shocked. I'm here I am 18, I'm not sure how to respond to that. And so, for the first few weeks, here I'm pretty much the first generation, so I don't want to do anything that's going to get me kicked out of school. And I don't know anybody really. And my goal is to graduate. I didn't come here to I don't know. I came here to graduate. And so when I was confronted with this Confederate flag, I didn't feel right about it. I didn't feel like, I just felt funny about it. My roommate was from Davie, in David, Florida, and that's what he was used to. And so I remember I told him, I'm not comfortable. You should take this Confederate flag off. And he didn't. And then after a month, 2 months, I remember one of my buddies came in afterwards and said, why are you letting this guy have a Confederate flag? You know, the history of this is it represents slavery. It represents white power. Why are you letting it? Why it's your dorm room? And I rationalized it's in his half and you know then I got to a point where day after day I'm seeing this and I feel like and the semester's going through and I'm learning more and I'm being more confident. One day I essentially took it off and I said, it's gone. He comes to the dorm room. He doesn't see it. I said, it's gone. I'm tired of it. We get our resident assistant involved. She's basically saying, I understand, but it's his property and a big old deal. And eventually they decide to move him out and I got a new roommate. He moved to a new roommate and it was resolved by him moving out. But for him, it was pride. It was his property. And for me, it represent slavery. It represent you telling me that you have more power. And so the disconnect in terms of how he view it and how I view it was there. But clearly he didn't understand why it had to go. You also mentioned the reason I decided to go to law school. One of the reasons I decided to go to law school, I'll never forget, I'm driving, and the police stopped me. And I'm thinking, I don't remember speeding. I know I didn't stop. I didn't go run over a stop sign. So why is the police stopping me? So the police stopped me and he said, obviously asked me for my license and registration. I had that. And officer, why'd you stop me? And he said, you were speeding. I said, no, I wasn't. I was checking the speedometer and I was not speeding. And he gave me a ticket for speeding. And I remember I was so mad and I couldn't understand why he stopped me. And in addition, giving me a ticket. So I said, I'm gonna fight it. And I decided that I was going to court and fight it. And I went to court and everything seemed to be so fast. It went really fast. And I tried to explain to the judge, I didn't do it. The judge didn't want anything to do with me. Didn't believe it. The officer showed up, said, I did it, and that was it. And that's probably the significant thing that caused me to go to law school, because first, I didn't think it was right that they stopped me for no reason. Pretextual stop. You guys heard of it. It happens. You are stopped and for no reason, just to check to see if you fit a certain criteria or you're doing something afoot. Just a whole process of just and being in, it was traffic court. It wasn't right now I do civil jury trials. It wasn't anything like, it was just traffic. It was just a judge. But the whole process coming before the judge and trying to persuade the judge to see my side, and the way the judge, I felt like didn't listen, just completely took the officer's side. And I got to know about this process. I want to be more involved in this process. I want to know more. And that's probably the significant reason why I decided to go to law school.
So, I mean, it sounds like you went to that hearing and the guy wasn't even going to listen to anything you had to say.
Nope. And, and a lot of people don't understand about police. We talk about police brutality and we talked about police. So now people are shocked that police are falsifying the police records, the police probable cause affidavit. Yeah, we knew that. We knew that they lied. They lied in the police report. And so America is now seeing countless examples, from what happened with Mr. Floyd to countless other stories we've been hearing where police have falsified the police report. They claim one thing, but the video shows something completely different. Even the elderly gentleman that they push in Buffalo.
Yeah, up in Buffalo.
They were saying that he tripped. And clearly, that's not the case. The video doesn't show that. So the police falsify police record, and not all of them. Let me not say not all of them, but some do. And so that's it's been a reality for a lot of us, people of color, people that look like me. It's happened to me.
And I can't imagine, I don't know when this happened to you, but I would imagine it was before smartphones.
Yes, yes.
How long have you been practicing?
So I became a prosecutor about 2008, early 2008, and in late 2009, I opened up my law firm. But graduated from law school 2006. So passed the bar in 2006, but really started practicing in 2008 when I became a prosecutor. So.
Understood. Yeah, so I mean, again, only recently are we all carrying around video cameras.
Correct.
You know, there's so many instances where people are not believed because it's not on video. And even when it's on video, people are not believed. I'm talking about Ahmaud Arbery. I mean, that was on video, and there were no charges for those two white supremacists for 3 months.
That's right.
Until we saw it.
That's right. That's right.
You know, so I mean, imagine if that video did not exist, or imagine how many videos are out there that have not been shown to the public.
Trayvon Martin. That's exactly what happened with Trayvon Martin.
There was no video.
There was no video. And you telling me a young boy, he was walking legally there in the neighborhood, and this guy who is a security person,
Whatever he was.
whatever he claims he is, neighborhood watch guy, he goes in, stops the kid, and then shoots him. And he got away with it. And so, and countless number of stories. Police encounter unarmed people, resulting in death, and still nothing is done about that. So,
Well, it's an interesting time right now, because for the first time, I think that the majority of people see a problem. It's the first time that I'm encouraged by that people actually see it. And I wonder why that is, because, you know, there's been so many Byrnes. There's been so many instances the past few years. The one that I couldn't get out of my head was Philandro Castile in Minnesota.
that's right.
When the guy says, "I have a gun." And the guy is like a cafeteria worker, kids love him at school, and the officer panics and shoots him. I mean, why is it now? Why is it that with the murder of George Floyd, that people finally are starting to get it? Do you have any theories as to why?
You know what? People are just tired. I mean, America's just tired seeing unarmed Black men dying. I think it got to a point where it's just enough is enough. And I remember when I saw it, and I was like, just enough is. You get to a point where it just, you know, it's enough is enough. And I think America is at that point. And I think these young people are they want a revolution, and they want change. And so they're moving forward. They want this change. And so I think that's what happened, you know?
You know, there's a couple things. I mean, like before, you know, within the past few days, there's been a bunch of different Confederate monuments being pulled down by protesters, which, quite frankly, they never should have been erected in the first place. But they're there, and they're being pulled down. And I just wonder if having this pandemic going on right now And with the constant barrage of fear and bad news over the past few years, I'm wondering if people's nerves got so raw and people got to a point where, like, you know what, we're doing it all wrong. We're doing it wrong. This can't be anymore. And maybe that was the impetus to people actually getting motivated to do something about it, because they realize how important it is, even if they're not Black.
Oh, I think that's a good point. I think a good point.
You know, I mean, there comes a point where it's like, you know, we want to believe that everyone wants to believe they're fair. They want to believe that they're just, and they want to believe that they're not racist, no matter what they say. But if you don't stand up when you see an injustice in front of you, isn't that just kind of allowing it to be?
Correct. I think so. Let me ask you, as a personal injury attorney, have you noticed instances where there's been injustice or there's been issue where you think shows discrimination or anything like that?
You know, it's difficult to say, because again, nobody says that they're racist. The racists, well, very few racists will say that they're racist. They'll go, oh, they'll find some other pretext reason as to why they're disagreeing. Mm-hmm. That's just what happens. But sometimes you wonder about the offers you're getting on cases and the cases that you're having to put into litigation as opposed to which ones settle. It's crossed my mind at certain times. You could never prove it, but it's certainly crossed my mind. And it's something that I think you always have to consider when you're going in front of a jury who's going to be mostly white about that. And again, is there somebody going to be on there who isn't going to be fair? I mean, that's what we do in jury selection. We try to determine that. But if somebody is hiding and saying that they're not racist or anything like that, you really don't know. But, you know, I think that the justice system has unfortunately allowed a lot of racist results to happen. The Groveland Four, right here in the state of Florida, I mean, those men were just pardoned by Governor DeSantis. Too little, too late, but they were convicted, and that awful sheriff, I forgot his name, doesn't matter, he was in Ocala, shot one of the defendants, and it's the way it was, is the good old boys. And, you know, basically under the color of law, the Klan was allowed to do their bidding. And so when I heard that song when I was a kid, Rage Against the Machine, some of those that join forces are the same that burn crosses. By no means are all police, military, anybody, extremists, racists, or anything like that. But there are some there. And you're seeing some of their actions in law enforcement, and you've seen it in the military. There have been issues with white supremacists infiltrating the military, and that can't be. And unfortunately, over the past 3.5 years, there's only been one president, I believe, and he's done nothing to push that back. In fact, we know about Charlottesville and everything that happened. These things are happening on his watch, and he is not trying to bring the country together. In fact, his actions are doing the exact opposite. Now, why? You can draw your own conclusion about it, but he's not trying to help the situation at all. And I almost wonder if, because he is there, that some of these changes may actually happen because it's so blatant, because it's so awful, the things that are being said. the people that are feeling that it's okay to let these racist statements come out of their mouths. That some of the people that may have been on the fence are now all in on the side of justice. And people who were just putting their toe in, just to test the waters, now they're all in.
Yeah.
And we need to get more and more people, because I do believe that most Americans are, this is not us. This is a small pocket of people. It's a percentage of the population, no doubt.
I agree.
But we outnumber them, and we have to stop them.
I agree.
It's been going on too long.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, my 11 years, actually 2008, 12 years now. Couple of things that I've seen. I've seen a white person, a black person committing the same crime, assuming that they have the same criminal history, and consistently you'll see that the white person will get a lighter sentence or a lighter punishment than the black person. The example lately that we saw is the Hollywood parents trying to buy colleges for their kids. Those the stories, and they're getting sweet deals right now, and countless cases where we've had where mom have gone to a different district. They may live in one district, but have sent their kids to another district for better opportunity, better school. Some have gone and have been sentenced to jail time and so on. More so in terms of drugs, we know the difference between crack, the sentence that you get for crack versus cocaine. Number of issues, number of times as a prosecutor I've seen, and there's a lot of factors. Some have better lawyers and so on, but a lot of times, all things being equal, you'll see that the harsher punishment, the harsher sentence, the harsher result has been black, in my experience.
In your experience, you've been on as a prosecutor and as a defense attorney.
Correct.
In the criminal justice system.
Correct. The other part I've seen is, as a personal injury attorney, you mentioned a jury. The fact that juries tend to be sympathetic. That are African American. I think they're sympathetic because they can relate. And so I've seen it where the defense attorney would have stricken someone, and at times I'm like, besides the fact that they're black, I don't see why they're being stricken. And so I've seen it, and you're familiar with the case law that's there, where if someone is part of a class, you gotta show a race-neutral reason why you challenge them to be in the jury. And so the case law was there because people have in the past, and lawyers in the past have done it, have stricken people of color and not be there so that they can ensure an outcome favorable to them. And so, I've seen that. And like I said, I represent mostly Haitian. Probably 95% of my clients are Haitian. And so I'm there in terms of when a adjuster lowball, give a lower value. I'm there when they go to court and they can't speak English. They have an interpreter. Right now, they're behind the ball because they can't speak English. They have an interpreter. And so awarding damages, awarding money because they've been hurt, someone in the jury may think that it's lottery. They're trying to make money, trying to gain the system when there's real injury and they're trying to get compensated for. So I've seen it, and just like you, and it's tough.
It's very tough when it's supposed to be equal justice under the law. I mean, that's the phrase. But when you see it as a lawyer, it's not that. It's aspirational. We want that, but we're not there yet, and it's 2020. And I think that anybody who believes that everything is equal, just, tie your bootstraps tighter and everything else, certain people get advantages. I am aware, growing up in Coral Springs, from 2 college graduates, that I had opportunities that are different than yours. Okay, I get that. But we're in the same place. We're doing the same thing. And it doesn't make me any better just because I knew that, I was going to go to college and all these different things. It's just a different mindset. And when people get upset by the phrase white privilege, that's something if you think about it, you shouldn't get upset. Nobody is saying that your life isn't hard and that everybody has struggles that they deal with. But one of those struggles is not your color, okay? There's an incredible video, I forgot who put it out. It's these kids lining up for a race. Have you seen it?
Tell me a little more about
It's
it.
basically this coach saying, if you have 2 parents at home, take a step forward. If you never had to worry where your next meal is coming from, take a step forward. And those type of questions. And then at the end, they look behind and you can see a lot of the white kids are ahead of some of the Black and Hispanic kids. And the coach makes a very good point. He goes, you're not better than them. It's not based on merit. It's luck of the draw. It's just what you were born as. And it really was very powerful to see that, because if, you want to be judged by your merit.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what we all should be striving for. That's what Martin Luther King said.
That's right.
Judged by not the color of my skin, but the content of my character, of their character. Right. And we're still fighting that today.
Yeah, that's an interesting point you mentioned. I think when I think of white privilege, obviously, a lot of people get upset when we talk about that. It's expectation. And I mentioned it in high school. The expectation that, if there's something's going on, they're gonna pick Billy to be the leader. Expect Billy to be the leader and expect him to perform, and have low expectation of someone that look like me not to lead and not to give the opportunity. And so it's not really something that you did that made you. It's just the way the society is. The way the society, it gives you that privilege just because the group that you belong to. And I think if we're honest with each other, and I appreciate you being honest, and we're having this honest conversation, we know that it exists. It exists, and that if I go to a store and we both go to the store, you may be expected to purchase a higher, and you may get the salesperson to perhaps treat you differently and nicer, and I may not be treated as nice, or I may even be treated as someone that's not even here to purchase. Or it comes when you have to go to the doctors and they treat you a little better and give you the extra tests, give you the extra diagnosis, extra care, and me not necessarily giving that extra test, that extra diagnosis. And so it exists, and I appreciate you shared and you were honest with that,
Well, it's, again, we want to be just, we want to be fair. At least I think most people do, but they don't really know how. And then they hear these certain phrases and their ears go like this because they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear that they're privileged in any way. But that's what the word means. It means that you got something that you didn't earn. And if you think it's not true, you need to look at the world around you. And again, you're a professional. You still get some of this when you go out, I'm sure, because people don't know you're a personal injury lawyer or a lawyer or, involved in your community or anything. They don't know. But people prejudge, and that's what privilege is. I walk in, no one says anything. But
I was going to say, even the network you belong to, it's just, there's a reason why the NFL is in the news. Still today, lack of coaches, lack of general manager, lack of owner. And this is a network. You belong to a network. So the people that will get the interviews are people that are going to be kind of think like-minded. And it's the way it is. And the more opportunity that someone that looks differently, the less that privilege exists. So, people get upset with that, and it exists.
And it's not always purposeful either. And I think that needs to be clear. Inherent racism.
That's right.
It doesn't mean you're trying to be racist, but inherent racism would be you have 2 job applications. One of them is Bill Smith, and one of them pick a name, an ethnic sounding African American name. And some people instinctively, same qualifications, might go that way based on the name. And that's exactly what we're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, and again, anytime, Black athletes have tried to bring light to this issue. I remember when we were in high school, there was, forgot what team he was on, but he wouldn't stand during the national anthem for similar reasons that Colin Kaepernick took a knee.
Wow.
I can't remember the guy's name.
Huh? The precursor to Colin Kaepernick.
It was, and people went crazy. They didn't care what he was saying. You stand for the national anthem. Colin Kaepernick, a few years ago, takes a knee. What did Donald Trump say? I want an owner to go get that son of a bitch off the field, get somebody else in there. Didn't care. The reason why, peaceful protest. It's supposed to make you uncomfortable or nothing changes. And it made people uncomfortable because unfortunately, we like to say a lot of things about what America is. But in reality, we're talking about what we want America to be. And when we don't listen to people, when they're trying to tell us in a peaceful way, the inevitable consequence is at some point, there's violence, then there's protest. And I'm thankful that, things are more peaceful now. But the kneeling was a statement, and it wasn't, I hate America. It was, I want you to pay attention to the problem that the Black community has with being racially profiled in police encounters and other encounters for that matter. Colin Kaepernick.
We just want it. We want it to stop. We want unarmed man, Black man, stop being killed. We want what happened with armed robbery to stop, where you're in a neighborhood and you get shot, and if not for the video and people coming in and raising hell, these people were getting away with it.
Exactly.
And so we wanted to where if I go down, I know I'm speaking for myself. If I go in a neighborhood, if I don't do something, don't stop me, And I'm not saying there's no need for police to be there and so on, but if there's someone that's driving, they haven't broken any rule, don't do no pretextual stop, and just give us the same treatment that you would give another group, and that's all we want.
And that's what you should expect. That's how it is supposed to be. And again, we need to listen. White America needs to listen. And if they're willing to, and not focus on the method of protest, which is a way of ignoring the issue. Maybe we can, maybe not solve the whole thing in this generation, but get rid of a big chunk of it. But we've got to actually address it. And when I ask people about the kneeling, they don't want to talk about the reason for the kneeling. They want to focus on the kneeling because they don't want to admit that this is the original sin of America. And you know what? It's okay to admit that we are flawed and that we have problems. What's not okay is to say they don't exist.
Absolutely.
That's how I feel. Let me ask you this. Do you have, I'm trying to educate myself more, Byrnes, because again, you're living the experience and I'm trying to be a good ally and trying to be better myself. I know that I've grown a lot, especially over the past, well, just being a lawyer for 18 years now, but really, I mean, reading in the past 10 years and looking at the different injustices I see. Any different like books or documentaries or anything like that that you think are helpful to explain some of the issues that we're talking about?
Yeah, Ava, I forgot her last name. Her last name starts with D, and they there's a Netflix documentary, and the name of it I think is When They See Us, something to that effect, and it's about the 5 kids that were arrested and convicted and later released.
Central Park 5.
Yes. And that was a great documentary. So I recommend someone to view it and kind of see the issues. There were so many issues addressed in that documentary. So I recommend you go ahead and check it out. And
do they talk about the full page ad that Donald Trump took out in 1989?
I believe it's a 5-part series, and so I recommend that.
He still thinks they should be in jail even though they've been completely proven innocent.
Yeah.
Because he can't admit mistake.
Yeah. Quick question for you. I know one of the reasons you wanted to do this is because you wanted to do something and you wanted change. In an ideal world, what would you like people to do and what change would you want?
That's a tough question to answer. I mean, obviously, I want people not to be racist. But, again, like I said, nobody's racist, apparently. But what I would really want is for people to get out of their comfort zone, be able to talk honestly about issues that matter, not about the score of the basketball game or anything like that. Talk about real issues, to talk in politics, to talk about real things that affect people and not how the Democrats hate the Republicans hate the Democrats. And if you're a Democrat, you're the devil. I'd like for us to actually try to resolve our issues and to admit our history and to learn our history, to learn about why after Lincoln was shot, why things got so bad for the Black community, because Reconstruction was a failure because you had really bad presidents after Abraham Lincoln that weren't committed to the process, including his vice president who took over right after, who was impeached. I think people need to listen to people in the Black community, realize that we should all be judged by who we are, what we do, not what we look like. Read. I think America has stopped reading as much. Some books that have really resonated with me, Just Mercy by Brian Stevenson.
Yes.
And that movie is out. I read the book though before. Just blew my mind about how the death penalty is disproportionately used against African Americans, and in some reasons to, quote, solve a crime when there is no, it's not solved, but it makes the people feel better. That happened all the time. Hoping that with DNA that's not happening so much. I just finished Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. I don't know if you know about that. It's a long letter he wrote to his son growing up Black in America. Actually just finished that last night.
Oh, wow.
It was incredible.
Wow.
To Kill a Mockingbird. I mean, I hope everybody reads that at the very least. And the book that I've been giving out to people is White Fragility. Why it's so difficult to talk to white people about racism.
Wow.
We need to talk. You know, I mean, if we aren't willing to do that, then we can't say that it's equal justice under the law. I want to be able to say that and mean it. And maybe we're at a point where we can actually make it somewhere that, you know, other generations couldn't. You know, that, and I see the younger kids, I see my sons, and the way I'm raising them, I mean, they don't care. You know, and I'm seeing other people like that too, but even, you know, again, I'm Jewish. You hear things growing up. Jewish people can be prejudiced just because, you know, people are anti-Semitic. There's certain words that I won't say, but I heard for Black people growing up, and it made me cringe. And I'm ashamed to say I didn't always say, don't say that. Because I didn't, it was just, again, it's something that unless you realize the impact it has on people that are close to you and people that you care about, you just don't know. You know, so for you to come out here and share your stories, I cannot imagine what it would have been like for me living in a room with a swastika on the wall from my roommate. But you had to endure that for months. And the reason you did that is because you're the first generation to go and you didn't want to rock the boat, right, because you were worried that they might blame you for it.
Yeah.
You know, that you were overreacting. You're not overreacting though. That shouldn't be, and it never should have been. So again, this is something that I hope we can do again, Byrnes. It's really, it's a tough topic. It's tough to talk about, but I'm really glad you shared with me. And, you know, I'm hopeful that people can change. I do believe people can change.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again for inviting me, and thank you so much for your passion. And it was your idea to say, hey, let's do something. And it was your heart to want to do something. I want you to know that you are making a difference. Just the fact that you are having this conversation and somehow maybe one person will view this and will see it and will start thinking about some issues differently. Or maybe someone that's been silent. They've been silent because they don't want to rock the boat like I was in my freshman year in college at Florida State. They don't want to rock the boat, and you kind of, you know, understand some of the issue, but you know, you just don't want to rock the boat. And you talking about it, talking about white privilege, talking about the different books and the different ways that the system is not fair. And hopefully, you know, that'll make a difference, and one person will change and will make a stance and do something different. And so you are making a difference. I thank you so much for your passion. Thank you so much for everything you're doing. And again, thank you for inviting me.
Well, you know, I just want America to be what I learned it could be, what aspirationally it's supposed to be. Yes. And that's what I'm trying to do. I don't want anybody to be treated differently. I don't think that all police are bad by any stretch. I know wonderful police. I'm friends with a number of them, and they're terrific people.
Absolutely.
But I think that, you know, this is something that happens far too often. We have to do something about it. I think that there's a lot put on the police. I think that, you know, some of the things that are going on right now, I think what really needs to happen is some of the expectations that we have for the police need to change as well. Sometimes the police aren't the right solution to every single problem. And I think it would be good for the mental health of police officers as well.
Yeah.
But Byrnes, I'm glad we're friends.
All
I'm
right,
glad
brother.
you agreed to come on here. And
Absolutely. It
I'm
was
looking
fun.
forward after this pandemic to going out to dinner with you again.
Absolutely. It was fun last time. We'll do it again.
Absolutely.
Great.
Thank you for watching, everybody. This is Byrnes Guillaume. I'm Jeff Adelman. I hope you enjoyed it.